You remember Heero Yuy pressing a gun to a girl's forehead in the first episode, and she didn't blink. You remember 5 boys with impossible machines and a mission that should have gotten all of them killed. What you probably don't know is how their story actually ended. Not the version that aired on Toonami, the real one. The one that took 30 years to finish telling. Saturday afternoons in 2000, you were planted in front of the TV before anyone called you to dinner. Toonami was the reason, and Gundam Wing was the show that made you stay. Not because it was loud or flashy, though it was both of those things, but because something underneath it felt genuinely serious. Like it was trying to say something, and it trusted you to keep up. For a lot of kids, this was the first piece of animation that treated them like they could handle moral ambiguity. The heroes weren't cleanly heroic. The villains had coherent worldviews. The pacifist wasn't portrayed as naive, or not only as naive. You watched it, and something in your brain shifted slightly, in a way you probably couldn't have named at the time.
Hey, hero buddy. I hear you ripped up Relina's invitation yesterday, huh? Why'd you do something like that?
Part 1. The World and the Heroes. The world they dropped into. The year is after Colony 195, and humanity has outgrown the planet. Billions of people live in massive orbital colonies suspended in space, and every single one of them is under the thumb of the United Earthsphere Alliance, a global military organization that enforces its version of peace the same way a boot enforces quiet, by coming down hard on anything that moves. The colonies have watched their leaders assassinated. They've seen protests answered with mobile suits and cannon fire. So they built something back. 5 giant robots, Gundams, constructed in secret, each one a declaration of war disguised as a weapon. In April of 1995, the show premiered in Japan. By 2000, it was reaching American living rooms through Toonami, and nothing on that block had ever felt quite like this. The mission the 5 pilots are given sounds simple on paper. Go to Earth, wage a guerrilla war against the Alliance, liberate the colonies. The method? Total destruction of military targets. The philosophy underpinning all of it? Pacifism. You were asked to hold both of those things at the same time, and the show never let you put one of them down. That tension was the whole point.
Lieutenant, let me handle this one.
Are you sure? This isn't like being in outer space, you know.
I'm aware of that.
The heroes we wanted to be. Heero Yuy is not a hero in the way you were used to. He doesn't inspire through speeches or warmth. He calculates. He executes. He took his name from a martyred colonial politician, a man assassinated for fighting for the colony's freedom, and he carries that name like a mission statement. The first time Heero faces capture, he initiates his own self-destruct sequence. Not as a last resort, as a preference. In America, those scenes were framed as sacrifice. In the original Japanese, they were something darker. A boy who'd been trained since childhood to have no self-worth beyond mission completion. He doesn't try to die because he's brave. He tries to die because he doesn't know how to exist outside the objective. That distinction matters more than it might sound. Duo Maxwell is everything Heero isn't. Loud, grinning, reckless, piloting a Gundam called Death Scythe while calling himself, in the original Japanese, the God of Death. American broadcasters changed that to Great Destroyer over religious controversy. The laugh was still there, though. The laugh that covered whatever Duo didn't want anyone to see. Troa Barton has no past he'll claim. He infiltrated the Alliance by joining it, performing in a mobile suit circus while waiting for the moment to strike. Katra Raburba Winner is the heir to enormous wealth who walked away from all of it. Wu Fei Chang fights for a colony that was already destroyed before the story started. 5 boys, 5 different kinds of damage, one shared impossible assignment. And the detail about Heero's mission that the US broadcast softened or buried entirely. That's something we'll come back to.
Heero Yuy. Entrance fees unpaid. Cleared. Boarding fees unpaid.
Woman who didn't blink. Relena Peacecraft is introduced at the moment Heero points a weapon at her face. She looks at him directly. She does not run. She's not a pilot. She doesn't fight in a Gundam. What she does is harder. She's a diplomat, a pacifist, the heir to the Sank Kingdom, a nation that built its entire identity around non-violent resistance. The Alliance destroyed the Sank Kingdom anyway. Relena is rebuilding it, with speeches and presence, and an unshakable conviction that there is a version of peace that doesn't require being the last one standing. She's the show's philosophical backbone. Without her, Gundam Wing is 5 boys and robots fighting for undefined reasons. With her, it becomes an actual argument, a real one, about whether total pacifism is possible, whether it's even moral, whether the world can be changed without becoming the thing you're fighting. The show doesn't pretend the question has an easy answer, and it doesn't let Relena off the hook either. Her certainty costs people around her. Her relationship with Heero is complicated in ways the show earns rather than explains. He threatened to kill her. Then he protected her. Then he left. The tension between them is the emotional spine of the entire series, and it doesn't resolve cleanly. Not in the TV show, anyway.
Hello there.
The villain who was right. Zechs Merquise is the man the Alliance sends to stop the Gundams. Tall, masked, platinum-haired, piloting a mobile suit called Tallgeese that nearly destroys his body every time he flies it. The Alliance built Zechs to be perfect, loyal, brilliant, lethal. He is all three. He is also, under the mask, Relena Peacecraft, Relena's brother. The exiled prince of the kingdom the Alliance burned to the ground when he was a child. He became the system's ideal soldier while secretly being the system's most dangerous enemy. What Zechs wants shifts across the series. He wants to find out if the Gundams are worth following, wants an opponent worth fighting, and eventually he arrives at a philosophical endpoint the show takes completely seriously. Maybe the current peace is a lie so complete that it has to be destroyed before anything real can grow in its place. He's not wrong. The show knows he's not wrong. That's what makes him impossible to dismiss, and what makes him one of the more interesting antagonists in the genre.
I met Dr. J. So even you can be surprised.
Part 2. The Journey and the Ending. The episodes nobody forgot. The image that defines the series arrives early. Heero initiates his Gundam self-destruct sequence, not under impossible pressure, not as an absolute last resort with a survival window visible to the audience. He decides his mission requires his death, begins the countdown, walks into the explosion, and survives. Because the show wasn't finished with him yet, and because in Gundam Wing, survival is never offered as straightforward mercy. The reveal of Zechs' true identity lands differently once you've spent real time with the mask. The Alliance's greatest weapon was the royal heir of the nation it destroyed. Every scene between Zechs and Relena carries the weight of what was taken from both of them, and the very different things each chose to become in response to that loss. The philosophical debates aren't decoration, they're the architecture. Every battle is an argument continuing by other means. Can peace be achieved through overwhelming force? Does Relena's pacifism make her naive? Or is she the only character in the story who actually understands what winning looks like? The show asks these questions without rushing toward answers, which is rare for a Saturday morning block that also needed to sell model kits. It's also what separates Gundam Wing from the other mecha shows of its era. The fighting is never just fighting. It's always an expression of something the characters can't resolve any other way.
Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to my birthday party. I have never been so happy and delighted.
The ongoing war. The mission evolves in ways nobody anticipated. The 5 pilots start by fighting the Alliance. Then a splinter organization called Oz emerges, and the Gundams fight that. Then alliances fracture, sides switch, and characters who seemed like villains become something more complicated. Characters who seemed trustworthy reveal what they've been protecting all along. The show runs like a chess match, where half the pieces have their own agendas. The stakes escalate, not just militarily, but philosophically. What does it cost to be a weapon? What does it cost to watch people become weapons? The 5 pilots were children when they were trained for this. The series keeps returning to that fact quietly, not with melodrama, just with the steady weight of it pressing against every interaction they have with people who grew up normally. Zechs eventually pilots a massive space fortress called Libra, a weapon capable of destroying Earth. Not because he's descended into villainy, but because he's reached the conclusion that the world as currently structured cannot produce real peace, and he's willing to be the one who tests that theory to its absolute limit. The show frames this as tragedy, not evil. There's a difference, and Gundam Wing always knew it.
No! You stay here! Excuse me, everyone.
The final episodes, the ending you actually got. Episode 49, The Final Victor. Heero and Zechs fight in space while Libra falls toward Earth. Heero fires the Twin Buster Rifle. The threat is neutralized. Peace is declared. The 5 pilots vanish into an ambiguous future. Zechs is implied dead in the explosion above Libra. Nothing is confirmed. The romantic tension between Heero and Relena, the thread running underneath every confrontation, every protection, every departure, ends with a scene that confused an entire generation of American viewers. Heero writes Relena a letter. She tears it up. The audience never reads it. The credits roll. If you watched that finale as a kid and felt like something hadn't been resolved, you were right.
Lieutenant Zechs, I've got mobile suits from the marina.
Looks like that captain's caught on to us.
Why it ended, and what came immediately after. The original Japanese series ran its planned 49 episodes and concluded in March 1996. It wasn't canceled, it was finished. American audiences experienced it as abrupt because Toonami aired it years later, with edits, without the context that the story had already continued elsewhere. That continuation was Endless Waltz, a 3-episode OVA released in Japan in 1997, later edited into a film. American viewers eventually got it, and it delivered what the finale had withheld. The 5 Gundams are destroyed. Actually, definitively destroyed, not ambiguously retired. A new threat emerges. The pilots fight one final time. The world they were trying to build gets a little more real, a little more fragile, a little more worth protecting. Zechs survived. He became a preventer, a peacekeeping agent, and eventually retired to Mars with Lucrezia 9. The show gave him the ending his complexity had been earning the whole time. But they never got to tell you. Until now. The novel series Frozen Teardrop took things further. The Piece 1 in the television series didn't hold. Decades later, a new conflict breaks out on Mars. The pilots, older now, carrying different damage, are pulled back in. Heero Yuy, the boy who spent 49 episodes trying to die cleanly in service of a mission, spent nearly 30 years in cryogenic stasis after the war. Preserved, held in reserve, the ultimate weapon, waiting for a calculation that would finally change. When he wakes up, he proposes to Relena Peacecraft. They marry. The letter gets answered. The cycle of self-destruction, the one the show had been tracing since the first episode, finally ends. The Operation 30th Anniversary video project, released in celebration of the show's 30th year, teased that a new animated sequel may be in development. Whether it follows Frozen Teardrop directly or charts its own course is still unknown. The novels go to strange enough places, clones, nanomachines, a version of the story the Toonami generation genuinely never saw coming, that a new series might find a different route to the same destination. But the destination itself is confirmed. The final canonical image of Heero Yuy is a man who chose to live. The letter was always a proposal. The girl who didn't blink knew it first. 5 teenagers given a mission that should have destroyed them, a world that could only be saved by people willing to break it first. A story that started with a gun pointed at a girl who didn't flinch, and ended 30 years later with a question she'd been waiting to answer. Gundam Wing gave a generation of American kids something almost no other show on that block attempted, an action series that took its own philosophy seriously, that asked whether the fight was worth it every single episode, and never handed you an easy answer. That's why it still lands. That's why people who watched it at 12 still think about it. Which of the 5 pilots was yours? Drop it in the comments, and if you made it this far without knowing about the Frozen Teardrop ending, let us know that too. That reveal still hits people. Subscribe for a new file every week. Aha!